release the Epstein files. That is the demand coming from the top House Democrat.
Dude, my suspicion is the reason why they can get away with saying shit like this, like the Democrats, I mean, despite the fact that at a certain point they also were in charge of the Epstein files and didn't do shit, is because they know that the Trump administration will never do it. So ironically enough, now they're playing the same role that like Dan Bongino and the Trump and the Republicans did. When Democrats were in charge, they were like, oh, release the Epstein files, knowing full well that like whoever came after would never release them.
And what the hell are they hiding with Jeffrey Epstein? What do Clinton, Obama officials, big money leftists, a former prime minister of Israel, why do they want to make this Jeffrey Epstein story go away so bad?
So now it's like a game of chicken. Democrats are not in charge. They know for a fact that the Trump administration will not release the files. So now they're saying release the Epstein files because both parties have people, prominent figures in both parties that are involved with the Epstein files.
Hakeem Jeffries joining MAGA Voices saying that the American public deserves to know the truth. And Jeffries offered up two explanations as to why he believes the administration may be involved in some sort of a cover-up.
Option one, they lied for years. Option two, they're engaging in a cover-up. At this point, it seems reasonable that can only be one of the two things. And so it's Congress's responsibility in a bipartisan way to ask the questions and try to get answers on behalf of the American people.
And then there's Laura Loomer, who's telling Politico that she is now calling for a special counsel. The quote is so that people can feel like this issue is being investigated and perhaps take it out of Bondi's hands, because I don't think she's been transparent or done a good job handling the issue.
I can't hide her face.
Well,
I can't
the
look
war
at the
over
screen to change
Epstein
it.
is one of the biggest rifts between Trump and his most loyal and powerful reporters that we've seen. And Trump right now has taken a clear side, which is not releasing information. This image says it all. Trump invited the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to the FIFA World Cup finale over the weekend. As you can see, he appears to be giving a thumbs up to her. He brought her there. That's really what the picture that says 1,000 words. Bondi, of course, is the same person who said that the Epstein client list was on her desk nearly 5 months ago, and now says there was actually no list and there's nothing to see.
I love how much the media is enjoying this, by the way. Buckets of popcorn, baby.
Now, while he died before he went to trial, his partner in crime, Ghislaine Maxwell, is currently serving a 20-year sentence after being found guilty of sex trafficking. And Epstein had hundreds of millions of dollars of money he was ostensibly managing for really rich and powerful people. There's a lot we do not know about him. We do know, though, that he was friends with a lot of rich and famous people, including President Trump and former President Clinton, and a whole bunch of other billionaires. Now, none of them have been accused of wrongdoing. But given that Epstein was able to carry out these alleged crimes for so many years, Trump should be the one pounding the table, put out the information, make sure something like this never happens again in the United States. But right now, he's not.
Are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years, you're asking. We have Texas, we have this, we have all the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? Believe it, folks. Nobody wants to talk about this guy. This is Jeffrey Epstein, the guy that won't die. All the guys, and in some cases, the gals.
With Bondi. But when you talk to the president himself, sources say that he is supporting Bondi 100%. And part of the issue here, though, is this idea that President Trump doesn't want it to look as though his administration is falling apart over this issue. And that's why you saw over the weekend Vice President J.D. Vance spending an enormous amount of time talking to Dan Bongino, to Kash Patel, to Pam Bondi, to playing some kind of role as peacemaker. And this now we see what the next steps are. Is the administration going to respond to any of this calling from the MAGA base to release more information? Right now, it seems unlikely.
All right, Kristen, thank you very much at the White House tonight. Out front now, Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin, the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, I appreciate your time. I know that you have been clear where you stand on this. You have said Trump should release all of the Epstein files and put an end to this, to use your words exactly.
Dan Bongino, for him, his job is like his life. So if he actually quits his job, that's like he's going to die. And by his job, I don't mean his job as the deputy director of the FBI. I'm talking about his podcast. We are officially in the podcasting administration, and it turns out no notes. Everything is fantastic. There's nothing funnier than Dan Bongino quite literally constantly talking about how much he hates this job because he's now required to literally defend the administration when he had the best podcast gig on the planet. Amazing. As someone who is a sure mic podcast enjoyer myself, I totally understand. I would never want to have a real job either.
Then the DOJ comes out with this memo saying there's no client list. Epstein wasn't murdered. We're all good here. Let's move along. Why don't you believe them?
Well, for one thing, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, said that the client list was on her desk. Then you had Donald Trump in a tweet or in a Truth Social missive saying that all of these files were actually created by the Democrats, thereby decisively implying that the files actually exist. And of course, Trump and Bondi and J.D. Vance and the FBI Director Kash Patel, all of them were demanding that the government release everything that they had on it. And suddenly the president performs a complete about-face on the matter and says that there's nothing to see here and let's move on, and wants to sweep it under the rug. And so, you know, look, I have no idea what's in those files. I do know that this case has been mishandled from the very beginning. Donald Trump's former labor secretary, Mr. Acosta, was the assistant U.S. attorney when they gave Mr. Epstein a very sweetheart deal where he pled guilty to one charge of solicitation when they had all of these underage female witnesses testifying about his.
Yeah, you can auto pen all day, every day. You can complain about Biden's auto pen. This ain't going away, big dog. It is not going away.
Well, of course, you know, as you pointed out, not just what Epstein had been convicted for, but what he was on trial for. I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell is serving 20 years just for aiding and abetting one part of that. The crimes here are horrific. And if anyone else was aware or involved, the American public should know. In fact, the MAGA faithful, as you point out, have been pounding on the table on this, calling for it repeatedly. Here are a few of the biggest names.
How is it that my father can be convicted of 34 crimes, but no one on Epstein's list has even been brought to light?
Put on your...
Oh man, this is I can't get enough of this, dude. This is fantastic. No Shot mainstream media talks about any of this in any serious manner after Thursday. I mean, mainstream media will probably run cold on this stuff, but that doesn't mean independent media is going to let it go. Dude, they've talked about Jeffrey Epstein nonstop.
I don't think that we should ever stop complaining about it. Never stop complaining about the Epstein thing.
They've talked about Epstein literally when the media wasn't talking about it. It's a major plot point for independent media.
Big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
What the hell are they hiding with Jeffrey Epstein?
I mean, it's the president's son. It's the head of the FBI. It's the deputy head of the FBI now. I mean, those are the three.
The one thing I can foresee, I don't like the misdirection narratives sometimes when people be like, oh, do you think the Jeffrey Epstein stuff is just like a case of misdirection so people don't talk about the ICE raids? But I think it's the exact opposite. I could see Trump doing something insane because he recognizes that like he's on shaky ground with his base for the first time ever. And, you know, screaming about Biden's auto pens is not going to do it. So I could see him doing something totally nutty, like, I don't know, invade Greenland or something militarily so that everybody talks about that instead of this. I could see him doing that on this issue, nothing else, because redirecting the attention away from Jeffrey Epstein is more important than talking, like consistently allowing Jeffrey Epstein to be talked about. Former Senator Claire McCaskill. Oh my God. It's got potato ass Claire McCaskill talking like this.
He was close to the fire. He was, as somebody said over the weekend, there are more pictures of Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein than there are trans athletes in the NCAA by multiples. So the bottom line is he wants this to go away.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Claire McCaskill. What the God damn. I mean, she's just ass normally. This is, even Claire McCaskill has become dark woke.
This is the first topic.
CNN went to TPOSA and asked people about Trump Epstein scandal.
That all of us as Americans, not as Democrats, not as liberals, not as Republicans, are actually lining together and saying we all want the Epstein files. And I said, come on, Donald, give us those files.
We need to get to the bottom of Epstein because Epstein is the key that picks the lock.
Let me just ask you, make some noise if you care about the Jeffrey Epstein scandal.
What do you think is going to happen?
I think they're going to maybe give us pieces and maybe not the whole thing and think that that's going to suffice. And I don't think people are going to be quiet about it until they really do it. But who knows if we'll ever know the true story.
Can Trump just say, look, release everything?
If you know anything about him, he can do and say whatever he wants. Do they have to listen? I don't know the legalities of that or the policies and procedures.
How bad do you think it would be for the MAGA movement, for young people's trust in Trump?
Bro, I'm telling you, dude. God, I told you the tariffs weren't going to do it. Israel wasn't going to do it. Well, for some people, maybe it like pissed them off a little bit, but not enough to speak out. Cutting Medicare and cutting SNAP benefits, definitely not going to do it, even though Trump said he wouldn't touch those things. But this right here is directly at the heart of something that his base wanted. This is supposed to be the red meat that they get. I told you, this is it. Why do you think CNN talks so little about Epstein during the Biden admin? What do you mean? Because Jeffrey Epstein, 100%, just like it was just like Jeffrey Epstein is a Trump affiliate, he absolutely is an affiliate of the Clintons. And CNN is the Clinton News Network. I think the only reason why the media feels confident talking about it like this is because they know that Trump is not going to release any information. Also, I think part of the reason why they didn't talk about it that much is because the Biden administration, for all his faults and failures, still presented itself as a competent administration that didn't like traffic in conspiracies, some real, some fake.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
In the same way that the Trump administration has been. So this is a direct, like, we said we were going to do this. Trump has a fairly high success rate of like delivering on certain promises exactly like this one. And they flexed so much. They constantly and stupidly talked about Jeffrey Epstein being just like a liberal thing. And I think the administration realizes it's not just a liberal thing. So now it's a great way to just draw a partisan wedge. The media loves stories where Trump's base is actually decoupling from Trump.
By the end of his term, they don't release everything they know about Epstein.
Well, I think that if they don't release the Epstein files, whatever J.D. Vance says then is irrelevant because it's like everybody's going to take it as like a lie because of what Donald Trump did. But I think J.D. Vance wants these files released as well. And I think that Donald Trump, he promised them, so he needs to do it. No matter who's on them, we need to release the Epstein files.
It's Trump's decision. It's Trump's decision. I think again, and I'm not going to make the decision for the president. It's not my job. It's not my place. But I do think the way that I'm seeing it played out is that Bongino will be here and Pam Bondi will be the fall guy.
You think that's fair?
I don't think anything's fair in politics.
This guy's so funny. Yeah, Bill Clinton creating the Epstein files and putting his own name in there. Trump says Epstein files were created by Obama, Clinton, and the Biden administration. Yeah, while Bill Clinton was creating the Epstein files and putting his name on there, he also happened to be frequenting the Lolita Express quite a bit. If anything, if there was a guy who was not an Epstein affiliate, I would go so far as to say it was Obama and Biden, ironically enough. As far as I know, and I've done a decent amount of reading on this, I don't think there's anything beyond like who they hired and like their consistent allegiance to, you know, the state of Israel or its own, understandably, its own intelligence communities. There isn't that much like direct involvement. And Obama and Biden are not even aligned with the Clintons. They're actually the anti-Clinton wing of the Democratic Party. But again, once again, it doesn't matter because Jeffrey Epstein is so much more of an important figure than just the Clintons, because if the speculation is correct, then Jeffrey Epstein is a asset for both the CIA and also the Mossad. Imagine Biden at a party, he would die. Also, he doesn't need that. Jill Biden is enough of a sexual dynamo that can soothe Brandon's appetite, his sexual fervor.
Three people making those statements. I mean, I guess I'm trying to understand. It would make sense, wouldn't it, that Trump would want to release this, if not just to assuage his base? I mean, why not put something out there if it exists?
Well, he was with them in demanding that these materials be released to the public. And now all of the questions that his son was asking and that Kash Patel was asking and Dan Bongino were asking are now directed at Donald Trump himself and at Attorney General Bondi. They want to know why, now that you have the reins of the government, you're not just going public with it. And so, look, at this point, I think the president has helped to spin large parts of the country into an absolute paranoid tizzy about all of.
Yeah, I said this earlier. I said this yesterday. A big reason why this is causing such a rift in the MAGA base is because it's the first time they've been told no. It's the first time they've been treated like a Democrat Party voter. Now they are being told good things aren't possible, actually, and you're stupid for even asking for such a thing for the first time ever by Trump, and they don't know how to reconcile it. Yeah, they have the most spoiled fan base, the Republican Party. So yeah, they're pissed off. They're pissed off because the spoiled fan base is not getting what they want.
This again, we don't know what's there and what's not there, but we need to resolve it. It's kind of getting to be an ungovernable situation, and the president should go ahead and release whatever they do know about whether there are outstanding sex abusers out there who have not been picked up for the crime.
So the cracks are growing in the MAGA base, also hitting the leaders of the FBI. You have Deputy Director Dan Bongino reportedly threatening to resign over Bondi's handling of the case. And Trump, meanwhile, says, look, there's nothing to see here.
Oh, I think so. I did. I spoke to him today. Dan Bongino, very good guy. I've known him a long time. I've done his show many, many times. And he sounded terrific, actually. No, I think he's in good shape.
Group chat is back. Over the weekend, I was watching the kind of meltdown on X, which is very much the heart of the Epstein conspiracy amplification machine. I just made that up. But it's where you're going to see the people talking about it who care about it. What did you think, though, of seeing such a direct explanation? It is her fault.
Yeah, so Donald Trump might not be taking sides, but the MAGA universe is totally taking Dan Bongino's side here. You see a lot of heat coming up against Pam Bondi, and one of the reasons is because she gave an interview where
the only reason why they're quote unquote taking Dan Bongino's side is because, unlike Kash Patel, he actually does have like some star power, and also Dan Bongino has actively criticized Pam Bongino. and said like he's trying to separate himself from the admin. It's just so, oh God. Like even though I knew that this wasn't going to come to any sort of serious conclusion here, and I still don't think that if they were to reveal any information down the line, it would be serious. Like one angle I can see is like Ghislaine Maxwell coming out and doing a congressional hearing on this and basically reasserting the Trump administration position, which is like, oh, there was no like client list, and all of these famous people just like hung out with Jeffrey Epstein because they love him, like they love his vibes, and that he was the only one who was like sex trafficking these minors for his own personal consumption. I could only see that as like as a way to try and bookend this, and I don't think that's going to be enough for a lot of these people. I don't think they're going to believe this. I don't think they're going to be like, okay, or they might just assassinate her in prison too. I mean, commit suicide.
she said, I have the files on my desk. I've looked through them. I've seen them with my own eyes. We're going to make this a priority. So when you say that, you are implying that there is something there and you're going to release it. And then they actually did end up releasing some stuff to
they did. And she always said, I'm going
redacted.
to review it,
Yes.
right?
I still don't understand why they aren't just burning some people they don't like, because the people that they don't like that they would potentially burn would be too high profile. If it's a low profile Democrat, then nobody gives a shit. It has to be a high profile Democrat. And if you actually burn a high profile Democrat, then that Democrat could potentially turn around and be like, dog, you were at the party. Like, I saw you a minor. You know what I mean? It's mutually assured philia destruction. It's mutually assured philia. MAP. That's what it is. So like, it's like nuclear first strike on files, outing files. And that's why that's why Trump is not doing this. Like, for example, there are plenty of people that we know have been heavily involved with Jeffrey Epstein, prominent Democrats like the Clintons. We know that. It's not a secret. Everybody knows. Ghislaine Maxwell was prominently featured in Chelsea Clinton's wedding. It would be super easy for Trump to just be like, oh yeah, the Clintons, they were all over the list. I see it. I've seen it in my own two eyes. I've seen it with my own two eyes. But they can't. They can't even do that because they could just as easily turn around and be like, every single Republican booster, every single Republican industry leader, every single, I mean, there are so many links to the intelligence community and so many links to like the Mossad and Israel that like Democrats can't do anything about that either. What are they going to do? Out Bill Gates?
And I think that I'm parsing her language here, but it just feels like she's really taking the heat here. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino are kind of not as much.
Well, okay, just on the review it language, like the way she made it sound in that statement was that I'm going to get to the accountability here. Even if she didn't explicitly say, okay, there's something in these documents that you needed to see, she sort of implied it. And so I think that's why you have the whole MAGA universe coming after her for this.
It is interesting that Bongino, though, seems to not be.
What do you mean? One thing I'm still confused about is if it's a CIA Mossad operation, why allow Epstein to get arrested? The Miami reporter brought it back into the forefront with her investigative reporting. And then at that point, it's better for the government to take action, open a case, and then basically seize all of his assets and terminate him so that there is no way that he could like potentially testify. You know what I mean? Julie Brown and her investigations led to the resurfacing of all this like Jeffrey Epstein stuff. She wrote a piece in the Miami Herald. So what ultimately going to happen if the Epstein issue doesn't go away? How does it get addressed? Or will we collectively grow tired of no progress on this front? I think people will still keep talking about it.
And you also had General Mike Flynn tweeting out, please understand the Epstein affair is not going away.
Look, if your entire movement is based on telling people that the government is lying to them about just about everything, you're never going to be able to convince them that suddenly the government is telling the truth. And we've kind of gone behind the curtain here where, if you now run things, it becomes difficult to say, you know what, believe us, oops.
Is this a test for the president? Meaning most of the time he can say, like with the Iran strikes, no, okay, this is what I say it is. Is that going to happen here?
No, the groundswell is too big. People really want accountability here. And the reason being this idea that there's a deep state, right? That there's government coordinating with billionaires to cover things up. That has been a huge part of the MAGA base's messaging and beliefs for so many years predating this term. I don't think Donald Trump is just going to be able to sweep this under the rug. I do think eventually it'll pass and we'll move on to some other conspiracy. But in the meantime, this is what's hot in MAGAverse right now, and it's very bad for Pam Bondi.
Is there other red meat that they can be thrown? Meaning, do you think there's going to be another controversy that will appear this week?
Well, I think it will be interesting to see, does it ever metastasize past her and move to Trump, because he gets very angry when the word Epstein is spoken now. Does it move?
And you heard that person even saying, well.
Which is why it's a perfect opportunity to consistently bring this up. For all of the reporters out there, this is a wonderful opportunity for many of you. Also, here it is. Libs of TikTok finally commented about Epstein and totally left out Trump. She knows he did it. Libs of TikTok says, breaking, Ghislaine Maxwell offers to testify before Congress on Epstein's sex trafficking scheme. Maxwell was convicted in 2022 for child sex trafficking charges and is currently serving 20 years in prison. She was the only person to be convicted of charges related to Epstein's sex trafficking scheme.
Now, Kennedy.
Yeah, Trump says he will release the Epstein client list if elected. The Democrat elites are shaking right now, says Libs of TikTok.
But a lot of big people went to that island. But fortunately, I was not one of them.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. They do that for danger, too, because, endangers certain people.
Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un has never been to Epstein Island. Another major W for Jusha. It's true. It is true. That's right.
Et cetera. So Kennedy is very different.
Yeah, notice how he very quickly flips it off to Kennedy to talk about how, you know, that happened a long time ago, but we can release that one because it happened a long time ago.
Different from the Epstein thing. But yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
Yeah, that was a lie, I guess. Son of a bitch. This is how I felt when he didn't arrest Hillary Rodham Clinton. So goddamn annoying to me because he just kept saying, lock her up.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
And then he came into office and he didn't lock her up. That was so lame, dude. And obviously, like, MAGA did not punish him for that, right? They should have, but they didn't. I believed him. That's why I voted for him illegally numerous times, okay? I was like, oh, he said, lock her up. And I want that. Now, he's like, oh, I'm going to release the Epstein files. Release it. I will release it. Now he's not releasing it. It's bullshit.